I just showed you some of the items I have here. And the reason why I showed you those is I had a number of questions in connection to haunted items. I mainly have 4 here, and I'm going to try and put my answer to them the best I can. We got 4 questions here, and the first question is all items in a paranormal museum haunted? The answer to that one is no. Some items are, or some items are possibly haunted, but there is items in museums. There's items in ordinary museums that are not, sometimes are not originals, but sometimes there is replicas of items. When we're talking about a haunted museum, there's items that are replicas of the original. You had the bridal doll. That turns out that there's something up with that one as that. So it's got a paranormal story of its own. But Annabelle out in the hallway on the chair, that's a replica. That's an exact replica of the original haunted doll. The Annabelle in the Ed and Lorraine Warren Museum. We also have, you would have seen James Dean's little car. That is just, it's part, I put that in as part of the collection because that's got a haunted story of its own. You got Robert the Doll. You got pictures. I got a sort of signed a copy of a signed picture, of Ghost Adventures. Some people like them, some people don't. I don't take the programs, fully serious, but it got a lot of people out to investigate. And Zach Bagans has a museum. Yes, it's a money-making thing, but he loves doing that. He loves, the collection and that. He spent a lot of money on some of these items and that. And some of the items that are in his collection are not haunted either. He has a section in his museum, and it's got the original Ghostbusters stuff, and he spent, I think the items went up for auction in England, and he was online and he was just pressing the button, bid. He spent over $300,000 on an original Ghostbusters suit, and the gadget that traps the ghosts and that. He got one of those. They're in a glass case. They're not haunted. They're just part of a story, if you know what I mean. Other items have claims of hauntings, but may not be haunted. Other items, which I have a bridal doll in a case up there, that came from an actual charity shop where the staff wanted me to get rid of the doll because they felt that the atmosphere had changed in the shop. It was scaring people. It was scaring staff. They wanted rid of it. It's kind of got a scary grin, and that could be psychological, but that adds to the story, But some items, when you pick them up, you got this energy that you can't explain. Doesn't necessarily have a story to them, but the short answer is no. Not all items in a paranormal museum are haunted. Some of the items are there to tell a story. and replicas of originals and stuff like that. Right, we're going on to number 2. Why are some items in cases and some not? Is this because of negative energy? No, actually. No. There's going to be a no answer to all these questions, I have a funny feeling. No. People have asked me similar questions around that in regards to a TV program that used to be on called The Haunted Collector, where John Zappos, he's got a museum, right? And he was asked to do a TV series, so he got involved in this TV series. TV company was running the show and all the rest of it. But he's an honest guy, you know. After he done all them TV series, he was able to tell the truth. At the end of each program, you would see him, you know, get the item, you know, and it was just that the end scene was always, you know, oh, this is now safe in my museum, and then he sprinkles the salt around it, and then puts the glass jar and that, and this is now safe in my museum, away from causing harm and all the rest of it. He didn't actually want to do that. You know, people have been asking him all the time, you know, oh, does the sprinkle of salt around the thing and the container that is in, does that hold the spirits? In his words, no. The reason why he had to do that is the TV company that he was working with. John binds does binding prayers to negative items and stuff. He does prayers and holy water and all the rest of it. So it's got a, you know, he's putting a religious ceremony on the item, if you know what I mean. But the TV company didn't want to come across in any way religious, so they says to do this. Now he didn't want to do it, but he had to settle for that. He done seminars since, and he's been asked that question a number of times. The reason why some of these items are in cases is simply because, to stop people touching them, for a start. The reason for that is, say if somebody comes into a museum or whatever, that you run for the public or whatever, and they touch an item, and then they go home and have an accident, they could say, well, you know, I had this accident because I touched this, and it was in your museum, and you could end up in some sort of legal bother. But most of the main reason for putting items in cases is the most valuable items are put in cases to keep dust off them. There's a car alarm on outside. I'm gonna cut for a second. Right, I'm back. The cases. The reason why some items are in cases and some are not. If you put all the items in cases, it will take up a lot of space. So very often what happens is the most valuable items, or the most prized items, are contained in a case. The case has got nothing to do with holding in spirits and getting trapped in the glass and all that kind of stuff. That's all theory and speculation. The case is simply there to protect it from dust and to stop people from touching them. If somebody has these items and they don't want them to be handled or whatever, basically it's just to physically protect the item. That's all it is. There's no scientific proof that glass cases or mirrors for that fact trap energy. There's no scientific, it's a theory, but it's not a scientific fact. But the short answer is the glass cases and the bell jars and all that kind of stuff is to protect the item physically. Um, three. Where do haunted objects come from? Is it safe to buy haunted items off eBay? There are 2 questions in that one as well. Haunted objects. If you go on eBay, you will see a list of all sorts of haunted items. A lot of them, all these, you got these dolls with crosses on them and scary looking faces and stuff like that, and they're classed as haunted. It's very, very easy to go to a charity shop and buy a doll for a couple of bucks. Go home, put some scary makeup on it, put crosses on it, put 666 on it, and then write a haunting story to describe the item. There's people out there that are doing this on a regular basis. You see some of the listings, and when you go to see other items, there's more flipping dolls. I would not buy from eBay unless a lot more research goes. You need to talk to the people. You need to get their story. You need to ask the same questions in a different kind of way. Ask about the item in a conversation, and then ask another couple of questions, and then come back to other questions, but ask them in a different kind of way, and see if they come up with the same answer and stuff like that. Very, very difficult. Personally, buying on eBay is not a thing for me. You got a lot of these so-called big boxes, and people are selling them for a fortune. They're boxes with some items in it covered in wax and stuff like that. Can these items be haunted? The theory is sometimes they can be. It depends on intent and stuff like that. Is there a spirit trapped in the box? There's no scientific proof that there is. Haunted objects. A lot of the stories, when I look at videos of people that own these museums and where items comes in and stuff like that, a lot of these uh, a lot of these items seem to be coming from flea markets and charity shops and antique stores and places like that. And John Zappa's a lot of the stories behind his items. He was saying in a seminar that women are very sensitive, extra sensitive than men sometimes, and they go into these charity shops and they pick up an item, and then they buy it because it kind of feels kind of weird. There's a weird energy off it. They can't explain it, and they buy the item even though they don't like it and they look kind of weird or whatever, but they buy it anyway because they're compelled to buy it because there's some sort of energy that they feel, and then they go home and all hell breaks loose. Well, it starts causing problems, and that's why they end up in a museum. That's what John Zappas was basically saying. So a lot of these items are coming from flea markets, garage sales, charity shops, and antique stores. We're going down to the last question. How do spirits haunt items? It's a difficult one because a lot most of the paranormal is based on a theory. Um, you got the case of Annabelle and um, uh, Robert the Doll, right? Lorraine Warren, in the case of Annabelle the Doll, believes that a demonic spirit um, pretending to be a child that was killed outside the apartment where this doll was belonged to a nurse in an apartment, um, and the doll started doing strange things. The first thing that happened was they were the woman that owned the doll. She got it as a birthday present. Um, she started bringing the doll down to breakfast, and on the breakfast bar she would sit the doll in the chair. First and the second morning nothing happened, but on the third morning the hands of the doll came up and put both hands went on the counter like this, and they weren't scared of this. They were more intrigued than anything else, and then apparently things kicked off from there. Ed and Lorraine Warren got involved. Um, a psychic got involved. A psychic said to them that there was a child that was killed not far from where the apartment was, called Annabelle, and she is haunting the doll. Um, Lorraine Warren stated different, that spirits of dead people don't possess dolls, that it would be a demon and that. So a lot of people that watch my shows, they don't believe in angels and demons, but I'm only telling you the flipping story. Um, in general, what my theory on items is, items like these dolls and whatever, is similar to the a teddy bear that you would have with the mechanism inside, the REM pod mechanism inside a REM bear, um, attracting certain energies. I actually have a REM bear that actually caused problems in somebody's house, and they got rid of it, and I didn't believe in it at the time, and I just want a static bear. That's all I want, and they sold it to me for cheap. He says, but we can't use this. It was another paranormal investigator in the UK. We can't use this. I brought this to a children's hospital, an abandoned children's hospital, and ever since I took it home, it's been going off. I've been getting, child coming up on the spirit box, blah blah blah, activity in the house, and all the rest of it. I have had activity in this house, and that was the first item that I had in the house. I woke up one morning and there was this rumpus outside, out in the hallway, and it sounded like a child kicking a ball and running up and down the hallway. And I was saying to myself, I lock up every night, and I was woken up about 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was hearing it running up and down the hallway, just on the other side of the wall of my bedroom and that. And there's laughing and stuff. And I sat up and I just made sure I was awake. And then I went to the door and I just went like that. And I opened it up and absolutely silent, nothing. But the dog was out in the hallway and the tail was wagging and all the rest of it. I didn't see anything, but it just seemed like there was a kid running up and down the hallway playing with the dog. I cannot explain. I cannot explain it, but um, my thoughts on items like these and other antique items and other items is that the spirits are attracted to the item. Maybe they own item, a long time ago, and can't part with it or whatever, they don't. To me, they don't possess it or anything like that. It's kind of like it's a magnet for that energy to stick with that item. Um, do I have any physical sort of proof? I I didn't record it, but I did do EMF sweeps now and again to see what changes, if there's any environmental changes in that. And these dolls, similar story. They came from a charity shop. The people in the staff, all the staff says that these dolls need to go. And I spoke to one of the staff members, and I says, "What is it about these dolls that you are not, that you're uneasy about?" I says, "The energy in here is just it's so strange since we got them. They came from another shop. They didn't want them. We decided we'd take them and that. And ever since, it just, the energy, she says, I cannot explain it, but it just feels negative to me. It's oppressive or whatever." And I picked up the dolls and I says, "What do you see when you look into that?" She says, "Oh, it creeps me out." This is one particular staff member. She says, "And they creep me out." And, they look creepy because of the eyes are kind of weird and all the rest of it. I says, "Right." She just says, we just want rid of them, please, just take them." I says, "Okay, but my initial reaction was that because they looked kind of creepy, it scared them, and it was internal fear that they generated themselves, that was connecting that fear they were building up with these dolls. So I didn't believe that there was anything strange about these dolls. I took them home anyway. I'd done an EMF sweep around the two of them, and this one had something like 5 milligauss um, of an EMF reading of it. But usually EMF would come off metal objects like wires, electricity, stuff like that. There isn't even any wire in these. They're made from plastic and a cloth body. So I thought maybe it's static, So I I grounded I grounded the item to make sure that the static would come off it if there was possible static, and it didn't help. I was still getting readings of this. I wasn't getting readings of this one, but I was getting readings of this. So, does that prove that the item's haunted? I don't know, but I cannot explain the readings I was getting off this doll, So, to me, what I think is that sometimes these items, they attract the energy, and the energy somewhere hangs around that. But there's no way of scientifically proving that. To me, it's a theory. Do they? You see these videos on YouTube of dolls moving and stuff like that. That doesn't mean that there's a Spurs possessed inside the doll. I don't believe that for a second. Can an item move? Of course it can move. But that again it doesn't mean that the spirit has gone inside the doll and using that as a host or anything like that. It's just the energies are attracted to it, just like you would use a static bear or a or a REM bear, stuff like that, Um, some people were expecting me to say, "Oh, this item it terrorized the family, and it disappeared in one room and it used to appear in another room, and um, all sorts of weird stories. I'm not going to tell you those kind of weird stories, because there's nothing here with that kind of a weird story. It just, to me, a lot of it's fabrication, I think, I'm just going to be completely honest. Why do I have items like this in my house? Well, simply, I don't have any other place to put them. And why do I collect these? Well, I'm interested in the paranormal. I like doing investigating, but I'm interested in the items. I'm interested in the Annabelle story. I'm interested in the Robert the Doll story. Items, they intrigue me. You know, a lot of items that we have, a lot of antiques items are way older than us, and existed in a period of time that we can only read about, or see fictional images of, or fictional videos or films about, Victorian times, Elizabethan times, Georgian times, and items that were made in the 1700s and stuff like that. Historical stuff. You know, and people ask me too about dipping boxes. Um, these boxes that have wax on them, like, there's no scientific proof that spirits were sent into a box and they're sealed with wax. It doesn't, it doesn't scientifically doesn't add up. It doesn't add up in a logical sense either. Like, but a lot of paranormal stuff doesn't have logical sense. But boxes can have attachments to them, because I'm speaking in theory. You've got items like dolls, uh, books, boxes, toys, all that kind of stuff. But boxes, way back in the day, you got jewelry boxes, and before you had just notebooks and pens and stuff, you had writing boxes, and writing boxes. It was a communication. It was a communication device. It was before telephone and stuff like that. You had boxes. You had the paper, the envelopes, the old pens, the ink wells, the whole lot. And some of those boxes had a slant on them where you could write your letters on the boxes. Do you imagine the amount of energy, the amount of joyous energy, letters to a loved one, love letters, Christmas letters, and letters saying that a family member has died. You've got heartbreak, you've got all that kind of energy. So you can imagine, to me, one of the things that would have a lot of energy is a writing box. Writing boxes and jewelry boxes. But yeah, I'm being asked the questions. I'm trying to give just a logical sort of answer to you got some of these museums with pentagrams and scary stuff. I'm not into that kind of stuff. I think some of the items possibly is haunted and stuff like that. You got ritualistic items and stuff like that. But some of the stuff that I've seen in museums just are meant to scare the shit out of you. That's it. I just don't do that kind of stuff. I have to live here. I want positivity around me. Maybe there is a little bit of oppressive energy in one or two items. I have a brass goblin and that, and there's something a bit odd about it, But I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it for now because I think I've answered most of those questions in a number of different ways. But to me, when you have items and stuff like that, to me, it's because I love the paranormal. I love the items too. But I'm not going to tell you a big bunch of bullshit and say that some of this stuff is running around my house. There's you know me by now. I'm not going to pull the wool over your eyes and guys, this is scary and all the rest of it. I want to be as logical as possible for my own sake and for the sake of you guys. I'm not going to pull the wool over your eyes. I love gathering it all together. It creates a story, and maybe it says something about me. I don't know. It's sort of when you collect all these items and you have it together. It's personal to me, sort of thing. But I'm gonna go. I'm blabbering on. See you in a future video and keep it real.